Welcome back to your outlet for outdoors and Western lifestyle, The Ben Show. I am your host, Rebecca Warner, a.k.a. Beck, along with my co-host, Jeff Tigger Earhart. This here came from one of our listeners in Michigan, reached out to let us know how, yes, hunting season is upon us. He went to check his property where he has a hunting cabin, and it doesn't get checked that often. Typically right around this time as he prepares for hunting season, only to find out that there was something living there, and it wasn't of the four-legged kind like a raccoon. No, it was of the two-legged kind, meaning other humans.
So we're talking squatters is what we're talking.
He found squatters.
Now, does he want to remain anonymous?
Yes.
Okay, just want to make sure that we respect that don't mention his name.
Exactly. But it brought up a great topic of discussion, and that's what he thought everybody would appreciate. Tigger and I kind of diving down into this whole squatters' rights and how it actually is depends on what state you live in.
This is legit.
It is.
This is very serious stuff. I mean, I got to be honest, I didn't know that squatters' rights, if you just Google that in and of itself, squatters' rights, I thought that was folklore like we talked a little bit ago at the beginning of the show. No, this is very serious. And we want to follow up with this listener, and thank you for reaching out, because there is proper protocol that going about of evicting said squatters. I couldn't do it because I would lose my temper. I just got to be honest. You can't get physical or anything like this. But here's the deal is just every state has very, very, very different laws when it comes to squatters and when somebody can actually take possession of a vacant property. It depends upon years. It depends upon paying taxes on said property that they can actually just eventually take it over. Is that true? Absolutely. And so you got to check out what your state laws say.
Correct. And if you're wondering how are they going about doing this, they call it adverse possession, and it is a public policy motivation of allowing those who actually use or cultivate land have the benefits of ownership and to avoid neglected or unmaintained land. Now, I checked into then, is this even under federal law allowed? Well, here's what I found in my research. While squatter rights are primarily governed by state law, as Tigger mentioned, certain federal laws can play a role in property ownership disputes, especially concerning eviction procedures. The Homestead Act of 1862 allows individuals to claim land under specific conditions. Although this act is rarely invoked today, federal law typically supports state regulations, which is why understanding of your state's laws are critical. And then I looked into, are there any states that actually recognize squatter rights? Sure enough, for sure I know of 5. They are California, Texas, New York, Florida, and Illinois. And if you do your own search on this, you'll find earlier in the year, the governor of Florida was attempting to reinstate or create some new laws to fight back against these squatter rights, as is the state of New York, too. So this has actually been a hot topic in 2024.
And I know a lot of people listening are thinking the same thing I am. We're just going to do this the cowboy way, and we're going to remove them. I get it. I couldn't handle this, but you said New York, and I brought this up. Oh my gosh, there are so many rules and regulations that are in place and we're talking about this abandoned farm property, right? I guess is what comes to mind, an abandoned farmhouse or an old chicken coop or schoolhouse or something like that on some property. Well, so much depends upon the legal description of said property. And for example, the state of New York, there is procedures that you are supposed to go through of getting rid of said squatters, like having an eviction notice, believe it or not. There needs to be a court hearing, and who enforces said law? They say you are not supposed to forcibly remove a squatter, which would be so hard for me to do.
Meaning Tigger can't come in guns a-blazing, okay?
I can't. But can I tell a story about this?
Yes.
When I was living in Oklahoma, I worked in the oil field for a while, and I had to go out at night from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. and check on some of these oil wells. This was a long time ago, And there was an area in Oklahoma, I won't say where it was, but there was an abandoned house, and there was, I remember, like a pickup topper, and yes, there were squatters that were living there, and I hated it driving out to that oil pad because I had to drive past that location. I didn't know what was going on. Everybody said, just keep on driving, just go to the oil pad, go do what you got to do, check everything, check your gauges, and then leave. So depending upon your state, there could be a whole pile of rules and regs of what goes into, if you would ever, and I hope nobody has to do it, to try to remove said squatter.
And I'm glad you brought that up because I saw this too when I've done some traveling in the very back roads of, say, Michigan and Indiana, and they are absolutely abandoned sheds, abandoned homes, and you drive by at certain times of night and all of a sudden you see a bicycle leaning against the building that you've never seen there before, and sure enough, you might see a little candlelight or something. So it is happening, and you might not realize it's happening.
And the reason that we were kind of bringing this up, I think the timing is perfect, and I think it's because of hunting season where I was seeing some scuttlebutt on Facebook. We're not picking on anybody or any state, but just bringing this up to people's attention that if you do have that blind somewhere that you've got set up, or that hunting cabin, or just a lot of people might have that. A cabin out in the middle of a pasture, right? And doesn't have any electricity to it. It's your little getaway. Maybe you need to check on these a lot more often than we are.
Or some of us have gotten into adding land as part of our investment portfolio. And if any of that land may have some buildings you've not torn down, or as you said, even abandoned campers on them and such, it's just, again, to keep an idea of where your investments are so that you don't end up down the road losing what you just went and put all that money into.
And when you say losing what you put all that money into, there opens up a whole nother can where what if somebody would get hurt on that property and the liability that goes with it? So, I mean, this, I can imagine everybody's going to be texting you on this one. I mean, it really opens up a whole can on when it comes to property that is owned, but then it is vacant for whatever reason.
And just to make this even a little more alarming to some of you, that's why you need to check your state. I found in some areas, they can start to claim squatter rights, or at least make it very difficult for you to evict them after as little as 30 days.
Right.
30 days. That's it.
And there's other states that make it extremely easy to evict somebody.
Yes,
I looked that up too.
No questions asked. You're done. You're out of there.
Man, you got to go down the rabbit hole if you're going to try to take possession of this property. But just bringing this up because it is a serious situation.
And I would love to hear some of your thoughts or stories of what you have encountered. So again, please reach out, send us a call, a text, leave us a message. 305-900-2363. Otherwise, you can always email benradioshow@gmail.com. And on our website, I'll have some lists of just quick ways to avoid squatter rights completely on your property so you don't have to worry. So check out thebendshow.com. We're going to have more of the show right after this.